I've been working here for some time now. Making these solid wood ash boards. To fine sawdust mulch for my garden. I do hope though that as a byproduct of this desert, I will get some step treads for my stairs. These treads should eventually be about 4 cm thick and 31 cm wide. In order to be able to work them with my small table saw and this benchtop planer, I'm going to put together every board from about 6 patterns like these. Forgot my microphone. To begin with, a straight cut through this ash board is needed as a reference for further cuts. This can best be done with a circular saw. Guide rails are usually quite expensive. You can easily build one yourself though. This is just some thin plywood with a stop bar glued onto here and a slip resistant mat on the backside. When cutting along the board, I try to make sure that the battens have these annual rings standing upright, which is okay here at the outside, but with the next one the rings would more or less lie flat, so I make that cut so that I can rotate the batten by 90 degrees later. The final thickness should be about 4 cm, so I cut it 5 cm thick for now to leave some clearance for planing. As soon as the board is light enough to handle it, I can continue cutting it into parallel pieces on the table saw, using the already straight edge as a reference. That's it for cutting this board. I'll need a lot more though. The stairs consist of 17 step treads consisting of 6 battens each, or a total of more than 100. I got 4 out of this board, meaning that I will need maybe 20 or 30 boards overall. Could get a little tight for today. Next step is making such half-step treads with 20 cm width at most, so I can still work them on my benchtop planer. For gluing, adhesive faces have to be plain, and the top and bottom sides need to be parallel, so it's onto the planer. As a start, I want one side to be perfectly flat. Okay, next there should be a right angle here. The second face is now flat as well and orthogonal. Two adjacent sides on each batten done now facilitates cutting the remaining sides on the table saw. In one dimension as broad as possible, in the other the intended final thickness plus around 5 mm.
Plus ca 5 mm.
This should be stored at least one more day, because the just cut faces may again warp a little, so I will plane them flat one more time just before the glue up. Now I am looking for 3 pieces that are kind of harmonizing. Order them in terms of appearance and direction of the annual rings. This looks really nice. Or maybe this way. The red parts on the edge really look good. I'll leave it like this. Mark it. Laterally, otherwise there will soon be nothing left of it. And then I plane them down to the same thickness. The flat side will again be the reference for getting the opposite one parallel to it. Maybe somebody wonders, yeah, that's a new table saw, the old one did not survive the last saw blade change. The lateral faces have to perfectly fit, so I will now plane them one last time. The joints should ideally be exactly 90 degrees to the surface, which is not too easy to accomplish, but there's another way too. Assuming the planer makes a slightly acute angle, then I simply have to make sure that in each joint they always meet an acute and an obtuse angle, respectively, complementing to 180 degrees, because top and bottom side already are parallel. The principle behind this is simple. If there are 2 parallel lines and the third one, then these 2 angles are equal and completing the opposite one to 180 degrees. So with this joint I'll plane the top side here and the bottom side here, getting a perfect angle of 180 degrees between the battens. In theory at least. acute, obtuse, acute, obtuse, so the joints should fit now. In order for the joints to align flush, I'm using these blocks. The tape prevents the glue from sticking and puts the clamping pressure onto the joint. A few days later, the half-width step treads are now done, and I already placed them next to each other in matching pairs. Now they have to be planed to be equally thick and to fit together for the glue up. Luckily, this glue up is much faster than the first one. I've planed a slight bow on these blocks so that the pressure is applied on the middle, aligning them flush.
Das sollte die beiden jetzt hier schön bündig ziehen.
Looks good. Now I hope for the joints to entirely close when I tighten the clamps.
Perfekt.
It's a few cubic meters of sawdust later, all the threads are glued. Not all of the joints came out perfectly, but most of them look really good. Now I'll sand them the first time with a rough grit, then 2 more times using a finer one. Sometimes I hold the sander slightly at an angle, which you normally should not do for a perfectly plain surface. This way some kind of a hilly landscape is created, and I liked it. Just a few more steps to go. Next I define a front face on each tread, which gets planed one more time. And then the edges are rounded off. The radius is chosen small enough to minimize the risk of slipping off the treads. According to some research I did, it should be about 2 to 6 millimeters, so I went with my 3 millimeter router bit. I don't want to just straight cut off the ends, but I want it kind of curvy with some arches and cavities, so it gets a little more life to it. Finally, I get to do everything which normally is avoided, like cutting freehand and tilt the saw at different angles. Yeah, that's what I had in mind. A vivid and friendly edge. I didn't manage to sand out this crack, but it shall stay in here as well. Now for sanding the whole tread with fine grit again to remove marks like these and further improve the glue joints.
Bleistiftmarkierungen herauszubekommen und die Leimfugen zu verschönern.
But before I make a straight cut on the other end, because this one will be right next to the stove. Okay, there's only 16 times more and the treads are already finished. I nearly forgot to cut this tread to its final width, so 1 centimeter more has to be cut off the backside. Brief sanding over again and then it's finished. Since there will be a lot of people running over these stairs every day, I also need to somehow protect the wood. I decided in favor of a solvent-free oil and a natural wax. They are now being applied all around the boards, so it equally reacts to changes in humidity, thus be less likely to warp afterwards. Ah, it's like awakening the wood to life. Nice. The oil mainly acts as a ground coat. In half an hour I'll wipe off the remaining oil and tomorrow the wax can be applied. Today, finally, the treads are ready to be built in.
Fertig zum Versetzen. Bei manchen habe ich vor der Oberfläche.
Some of them I still had to shape a little to make them fit, for example, around the posts of the railing. Generally, I make sure to leave at least 1 centimeter of space to adjacent components so that the wood can still expand freely. On some treads I filled some dents with shellac. They come in those small bars and they are natural, cheap, available in many different colors and also easy to apply. I'm a real fan.
Und ist noch dazu sehr einfach anzuwenden.
What's still left? On the underside I'll bore some holes for dowels, with which the boards are prevented from shifting off the stair beams. After fixing them, I'll make some more holes on the upside for the spindles of the railing, which I already made using the same ash wood and larch.
Eschenholz und aus Lärche hergestellt und die warten auch schon lange endlich verwendet zu werden.
Dowel points. Adjust and push down. Here is the mark. The step treads are mounted. In the meantime, I also made the handrails. Time to put in the spindles. A good staircase must of course be oscillated in to repel the mean stair ghosts. Now it should be safe to move into here with small children. The stair is not yet finished though. I still want to prettify the beams below and to build in vertical rises in between the treads. The stair is safe and complies with all the regulations that apply here in Austria. So is it a good idea to try to build stairs yourself? I'd say it depends. For me it was the right decision because it was great fun and I learned a lot. It wasn't a fast solution though. Estimated building time was about 100 hours. The overall costs were about 800 euros, half of it for the beams underneath, the other one for the ash boards. Thanks for watching, bye!